Yay, welcome back. So, here we are again. And we are going to be working on Chapter 6 review of rational expressions. This is Concept 6.1, the concept of multiply. Remember that when you multiply two fractions or rational expressions, you multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. But when we are working with a rational expression, for instance, if we were working with x squared minus 6x minus 16 over 2x squared minus 128 times x squared plus 16x plus 64 over 3x squared plus 30x plus 48. So this is the first fraction, this is the second fraction. What we don't want to do is multiply this trinomial by this trinomial. What we want to do is we want to factor and cancel. So I've listed the steps to factoring over here. Remember that first thing we're always going to do is check for a GCF and then count the number of terms and then check for nesting. We check for nesting when the exponent on the variable is greater than 1. So I'm going to start with the top left here and say this does not have an x, so there's no variable GCF. There is a coefficient of a 1 here. So I have no GCF, so I'm going to use Hippobutz. Hippobutz says we're going to factor this last number. The factors are 8 and 2, but I need 1 to be negative and 1 to be positive. I'm going to need a negative 8 and a positive 2 because negative 8 times a positive 2 is negative 16, and negative 8 plus 2 is a negative 6. So these make factors, here of x minus 8, x plus 2. So that's the top. The second one is going to be this bottom one here. And when I'm looking at 2 and 128, they both have a factor of 2 in common. So we are going to factor out a 2 and we'll be left with x squared minus 64. Now when I look inside of here, after I've taken a 2 out of here and here, then I say, hey, look, there's 2 terms. So I am going to say, is this a difference of squares, a sum of squares, difference of cubes, or sum of cubes? Because this exponent is even, it's a squares, and the 64 is a square as well. So this is going to factor to x plus 8, x minus 8, according to the difference of squares. I also need to not forget this 2, so I'm going to bring it down. The next part we're going to go to here is the top, and we're going to say x squared, x, no x, so no GCF here again. And this is a 1, 2, 3 term polynomial, so I'm going to use Hippobutz again. The factors of 64 that will sum to 16 are a positive 8 and a positive 8. 8 times 8 is 64, and 8 plus 8 is 16. So I'm going to write those factors right here. And anytime you have 2 of the same factor, this is actually a perfect square trinomial. Now I'm going to go down here to this bottom one and look at 3 and 30 and 48. They all have a 3 in common. So I'll have an x squared plus a 10x plus 16 left when I factor out a 3 from every one of these terms. So now looking at this, the inside of here is another Hippobutz. The factors of 16 are going to be 8 and 2. I need them both to be positive to sum to this 10 and to multiply to the positive 16. So I'm going to bring down this 3 and have x plus 8 and x plus 2. So I can cancel the whole enchilada or nada. Remember that up here I couldn't cancel like this x squared with this x squared because the x squared is related through subtraction or addition to the rest of this term. I can only cancel things that are related through multiplication, and when they are related through multiplication, then I can cancel the whole enchilada or nada. There's an x plus 2 on top. Here's an x plus 8 and an x plus 8. Now, everything on top cancel, but remember, whenever you cancel everything on top, what you leave behind is a factor of 1. On the bottom, I have 2 times this 3, so this simplifies to a 1/6. And that is how you multiply a rational expression. Again, think, factor, and cancel.